Sermon 18, Commentary. This is one of the strongest and most frequently quoted proofs in Shia Kalam and Usul al-Fiqh for the absolute necessity of a divinely protected interpreter, the Masum Imam. The contradiction of rulings among non-infallible scholars is presented as logical proof that there must exist an infallible arbiter, otherwise the religion would be deficient, which is impossible. Ibn Maytham al-Bahrani states that the chief who confirms all the verdicts refers directly to the first three caliphs and later Umayyad Abbasid rulers who appointed judges knowing they gave contradictory rulings. The 5 rhetorical questions, according to Bahrani, are a form of logical reductio ad absurdum, proving that the only remaining possibility is the existence of an infallible Imam appointed by Allah and His Messenger. Al-Mahilli says that uses this exact sermon in his famous treatise on the Imamat as textual evidence that the presence of a Masum is rationally necessary for the preservation of the faith. Allama Majlisi says that more than 15 hadiths from the Imams, especially Imam Sadiq and Imam Rida, explaining that this sermon was directed at the qadis of the previous regimes and at the emergence of contradictory schools of fiqh. Majlisi says that the Imam is saying, if the religion could be preserved without an infallible guide after the Prophet, you would not see this chaos of contradictory fatwas. Allama Tabatabai comments that the Quranic verses quoted at the end prove that the Quran is complete and free of contradiction in itself. Therefore, the only source of contradiction is the human interpreter. Hence, Allah must have provided an infallible interpreter, otherwise His promise of preserving the religion would be void. Contemporary Majlisin scholars, such as Ayatollah Khomeini, Khamenei, Makarim al-Shirazi and Jawad Amali, comment that this sermon is the primary textual basis used to prove that in the era of occultation, Muslims must refer to the most knowledgeable and most pious faqih, the marja' taqleed. Complete ijtihad without taqwa and adherence to the Masum's teachings inevitably lead to the kind of contradiction the Imam condemned. Most classical Shia historians and commentators say the immediate trigger to this event, or to this sermon being recited, was 2 famous judges in Kufa, one appointed by Umar, one by Uthman, giving opposite rulings on the same inheritance case. When the matter was escalated to Imam Ali alayhi salam, after he became caliph, he overturned both rulings and said this sermon. In short, Sermon 18 is one of the clearest rational and textual proofs of the necessity of imamat walaya after the Prophet. It is one of the strongest condemnations of blind taqleed to contradictory, non-infallible opinions. It is the foundation of the Shia principle that the only fully legitimate source of religious rulings after the Prophet is the Masum Imam, and in his absence the faqih who most closely follows his path. It is therefore one of the most frequently quoted sermons in Shia books of theology, jurisprudence and political theory from the 14th century until today.